Wanda Castle has lived in Stockton for almost her entire life. She's built and found homes for countless members of the community. She says the tornado outbreak feels like it was just yesterday.
It took my house, my barns, my fences, part of my cattle. It was very devastating.
But Castle lost something much bigger than a possession.
I was able to get to the basement, but I couldn't carry my husband, and he was not well, and so he was blown away. My grandson found him down in the field.
It is 4:32 in the afternoon on Sunday, May 4th, 2003. In Franklin, Kansas, a quiet town of 500 souls in the southeastern corner of the state, the sky is turning the wrong color. Josephine Megg, 87 years old, is at home. She has lived through the Depression and the war, through decades of Kansas weather. She knows what a storm looks like. But this is different. In the next 7 minutes, a tornado will erase 1/3 of her town. 4 people will die, including Josephine. Her body will be found in the rubble of what used to be her home. This is the story of May 2003. 9 days, 363 tornadoes, 26 states, the most relentless tornado outbreak in American history. And here is what makes it remarkable. When these same tornadoes struck Moore, Oklahoma, a city that had been devastated just 4 years earlier, not a single person died. 0. The difference is preparation. This is the story of the 9 days that shook the heartland, and the towns that learned what it means to survive. 6 days before the deadliest Sunday in modern tornado history, meteorologists at the Storm Prediction Center in Norman, Oklahoma, are staring at computer models showing something they have seen before, something they fear. Doug Kramer, a forecaster at the National Weather Service in Springfield, Missouri, pulls up the data. Upper-level trough building over the Intermountain West. Subtropical jet stream. Gulf moisture streaming north with nothing to stop it. Temperature differentials. Wind shear. Instability indices. He has seen these ingredients before, but never all at once. Never this strong. By April 28th, forecasters know something historic is coming. They just do not know how bad. The atmospheric energy, what meteorologists call CAPE, convective available potential energy, is forecast to reach 4,000 joules per kilogram near the Kansas border. Anything over 2,500 is considered extreme. This is nearly double that. Wind shear measurements show surface to upper level velocity differences of 50 to 75 knots. That is the twisting motion. That is what creates the rotation. At 8 o'clock on the morning of May 4th, the Storm Prediction Center did something rare. They issued a high-risk outlook. Not a moderate risk. Not an enhanced risk. High risk. The forecast covers eastern Oklahoma, Kansas, western Missouri, and northwest Arkansas. The language is blunt. Significant severe thunderstorms. Long track and violent tornadoes possible. This is the first of 3 high-risk outlooks they'll issue in 5 days. That clustering, 3 high risks in 5 days, had never happened before in the history of tornado forecasting. Doug Kramer would later say, "Everything we know about tornado outbreaks, all the ingredients you need for long-lived tornadoes, everything was there. It was a slam dunk." But here's the thing about tornado forecasting. You can see it coming. You can warn people, but you can't stop what happens next. That tornado that touches down near Franklin, Kansas at 4:32 p.m. starts as an F2, 250 yards wide, strong enough to damage homes, tear off roofs, flip cars. But within minutes, something changes. The tornado finds a pocket of instability. The rotation tightens. The wind speeds increase. By the time it reaches Franklin, It is a high-end F4 with winds from 207 to 260 miles per hour, 3/4 of a mile wide. Storm chasers filming from a distance later say they thought it deserved an F5 rating. The Weather Channel's Jim Cantore calls it one of the most violent tornadoes ever caught on film. Josephine Mogg does not have a basement. When the tornado hits, it simply erases her home from the foundation. Her daughter-in-law, Debbie Fager Mogg, is later personally comforted by Kansas Governor Kathleen Sebelius when the governor tours Franklin the following day. 3 other people die along the tornado's 35-mile path. But in Franklin itself, the statistics are almost incomprehensible. 1/3 of the town's 200 households gone. Just gone. The tornado stays on the ground for 38 minutes. Then it dissipates into the darkening Kansas sky, leaving behind a town that will never be the same. 50 miles southeast of Franklin, in Pierce City, Missouri, the sky is turning black. It is 6:45 p.m. The town's sirens are wailing. Pierce City is a town of 1,385 people. Victorian buildings line Main Street, structures dating back to the 1870s. Newman's department store is one of the oldest in southern Missouri. Small businesses have been in families for generations. The designated community shelter is the National Guard Armory. Dozens of residents flee there as the tornado approaches. Among them is J. Dale Taunton. As the tornado bears down, Taunton does something that will define how Pierce City remembers him. He holds the door open as people run, still trying to get inside. He holds the door. The tornado hits with F3 intensity, winds of 165 miles per hour. The Armory, built to withstand storms, sustains heavy damage. J. Dale Taunton is killed holding that door. It is the only death in Pierce City, but the destruction is catastrophic. 90% of the historic downtown is destroyed. 81 homes are obliterated. 45 businesses are leveled. Newman's department store, 130 years of history, is reduced to rubble and twisted metal. Mayor Mark Peters had taken shelter in that same armory. When he emerges, he looks around at what used to be his town. "I got out, looked at the damage, and thought life is not going to be the same," he will later say. He watches a couple embracing on what used to be Main Street, telling each other they have lost everything. 90 days later, Peters will encounter an elderly woman wandering into the work zone. She is clutching papers, looking confused. "Where is the drugstore?" she asks. Peters realizes in that moment that some things cannot be rebuilt. The physical town, yes, but the town people remember, the geography of memory, is gone forever. "That taught me things changed in ways you cannot always see," he will say later. "We had one death. Everything else was just property." At 5:31 p.m., another tornado touches down near Liberal, Missouri. It will not lift for 2 hours and 11 minutes. By the time it is done, it will have traveled 83 miles through Cedar, Polk, and Dallas counties. It is the longest tracking tornado of the entire outbreak. As it approaches Stockton, Missouri, a town of 1,960 people, the tornado expands to between half a mile and 3/4 of a mile wide. It reaches F3 intensity, with winds approaching 200 miles per hour. It passes through the city park just north of the courthouse. In its wake, 350 structures are demolished. 650 more have major damage. The downtown square is devastated. Wanda Cassell is at home when the sirens sound. She is a lifelong Stockton resident, and she knows the drill. Get to the basement, get underground. But there is a problem. Her husband is not well. He cannot walk on his own. She later recounts that she was able to get to the basement, but she could not carry her husband, and he was not well, so he was blown away. She survives in the basement. Above her, the tornado tears her home apart. When it passes, her husband is gone. Her grandson finds him in the field. 2 other men die in Stockton. One left his home during the tornado's approach and was struck by debris. Another refused to go to his basement. Cedar County Sheriff James McCrary responds to the devastation, expecting the worst. He says he figured they would be retrieving bodies all night long, but that was not the case, and he is thankful for that. 3 people died in a town where 350 structures were completely destroyed. It could have been so much worse. At 5:30 p.m. in Carl Junction, Missouri, Leslie Fitzgerald is at United Methodist Church with her 5-year-old daughter, Kennedy. It is Sunday evening service. 25 other people are there. When the tornado warning comes, there is no time to leave. They huddle in the church bathroom. Leslie holds Kennedy tight. The tornado, an F3, hits directly. Leslie will remember that they could hear the boards creak, and the metal sounded like it was screaming as it was taken apart. She remembers her ears popping. The sound is beyond description. Kennedy clutches her stuffed rabbit, squeezing her eyes shut. When the all clear comes, they emerge from the bathroom. The sanctuary looks like a giant spider web. The roof is gone. The walls are collapsing inward. But all 26 people in that church walk out alive. 10 years later, Kennedy will pose for an anniversary photo, holding that same stuffed rabbit. The tornado kills 5 people in Carl Junction and damages every building in the school district. Fire Chief Joe Perkins has another problem. The doors of the main fire station have been blown inward, trapping the fire trucks inside. Response has to come from outlying stations while crews work to free their equipment. Across southwest Missouri, a similar scene plays out at Wilson's Creek Baptist Church in Battlefield. 30 parishioners are gathered for Sunday evening service with Pastor Randall Moody. The tornado destroys the church with all 30 people inside. Not a single person is injured. Directly across the street, a woman dies in the storm. A church sign placed in the rubble-strewn yard later reads, "We should be gone, but God still works miracles." 3 days later, Pastor Moody will deliver his sermon from the church parking lot, surrounded by the ruins of his sanctuary. But the deadliest tornado of May 4th is yet to come. While Missouri and Kansas communities reel from the destruction, a supercell embedded in a squall line is tracking east through Tennessee. At approximately 11:30 p.m., it spawns an F4 tornado. Jackson, Tennessee is asleep, or trying to sleep. It is late Sunday night. Most people are in bed, or preparing for bed. The work week starts tomorrow. The tornado tears through the city, cutting a path 65 miles long with winds of 207 to 260 miles per hour. It destroys St. Luke Episcopal Church, built in 1844, one of Tennessee's oldest churches. It also destroys the Carl Perkins Civic Center, Denmark Elementary School, and Jackson Middle School. At Parkview Courts Apartments, an aging brick structure in a lower-income neighborhood, the destruction is total. Shirley Kaiser and her son rush into the rubble to help. What Shirley finds will haunt her for the rest of her life. Shirley says, "You could see that she was trying to get out of the room, and the chimney was on top of her. Beneath the mother is her baby. Both are dead." Nearby, Monekia Murphy, 24 years old, made a split-second decision. She hid with her 4 children under a couch. She escaped with glass cuts. All 4 children were unhurt. Charlie McCorry, 85, and his wife Corrine, 80, faced the storm in their home. The tornado stripped away the ceiling, roof, and most of the walls. A tree crashed through a window. Corrine ducked into a closet. Charlie did something remarkable. He stayed in the hallway and struggled to hold shut the bathroom door. The bathroom outside wall had been completely torn away. The 85-year-old man held that door against the full fury of an F4 tornado. Both he and his wife survived. 11 people died in Jackson that night, more than any other single tornado in the 9-day outbreak. The overnight death toll makes it harder. In Pierce City, Stockton, and Carl Junction, people saw it coming. They made choices. They lived or died in daylight, with warning. In Jackson, it was midnight. People were asleep. The warning came, but in the dark, in the confusion, not everyone understood what was happening. This is the cruelty of tornadoes. Sometimes survival is just timing. Sometimes it is luck. Sometimes it is an 85-year-old man holding a door against wind that could lift a car. 4 days later, on Thursday, May 8th, 2003, meteorologists in Norman, Oklahoma, are watching another outbreak develop. The sky over Oklahoma City is darkening again, and they are thinking about what happened 4 years ago. May 3rd, 1999. Bridge Creek Moore tornado. F5. The most powerful tornado ever recorded anywhere on Earth. Winds of 318 miles per hour. 44 people killed. More than 8,000 structures damaged or destroyed. $1.1 billion in damage. Moore, Oklahoma knows what tornadoes can do. But something changed after 1999. Something that will save lives today. After the F5, Oklahoma launched the nation's first statewide residential safe room initiative. FEMA provided $2,000 rebates through the Oklahoma Can Survive program. Build a safe room meeting. FEMA 320 standards. Get half your money back. By May 8th, 2003, 6,016 safe rooms have been installed across Oklahoma. Don Staley had been hit by tornadoes in 1998 and 1999. After barely surviving the 1999 F5 inside his home, he later said it was such a frightening sound. So he built an above-ground safe room on his back patio. 8-inch thick walls, 18-inch ceiling, 10-inch foundation, steel door with 3/4-inch plywood backing. When sirens sound at 4:10 p.m. on May 8th, Staley grabs his dog and 2 cats and takes shelter. The F4 tornado passes directly over his home. When he emerges, his house is in shambles. The roof is ripped away, but he is alive. Staley said the safe room saved his life, and that it came through with flying colors. Charles actually escaped the 1999 tornado unscathed, but he did not wait. He immediately used the FEMA rebate to install a below-ground shelter. On May 8th, he huddled inside with his 3 grandchildren as the F4 passed overhead. The family emerges safe. His home has no damage this time, and Ashley says the shelter gives him peace of mind he would not trade. The tornado that strikes Moore on May 8th is massive. It touches down near the intersection of North 5th Street and Santa Fe, near the Church of Latter-day Saints. Over the next 28 minutes, it carves a 17-mile path through Moore, southeast Oklahoma City, Midwest City, and Choctaw. F4 intensity. Winds of 207 to 260 miles per hour. $120 million in damage. 300 homes destroyed. 300 more heavily damaged. It strikes the General Motors Oklahoma City assembly plant, the most significant industrial damage of the entire outbreak. 45 people are injured. But here is the remarkable thing, the thing that will change tornado preparedness forever. Not a single person dies. Not one. 4 years earlier, a similar tornado killed 44 people. In 2003, with an F4 tornado striking similar neighborhoods with similar intensity, 0 deaths. The difference is preparation. Emergency Manager Galen Kitch had activated Moore's warning sirens at 4:49 p.m., providing 21 minutes of lead time. The National Weather Service in Norman had broadcast the first ever live weather briefing at 2:30 p.m., reaching audiences through 10 weather radio stations. Most importantly, those 6,000 safe rooms meant that when the tornado hit, people had somewhere to go, somewhere that would protect them from debris traveling at 300 miles per hour, somewhere they could survive. At KWTV, Channel 9 in Oklahoma City, legendary meteorologist Gary England is covering the outbreak. England is famous in Oklahoma. His signature phrases, the big uglies for severe storms, and his longtime advice to shelter with blankets and pillows are part of Oklahoma culture. He's been forecasting tornadoes for 30 years, and he has seen everything. But on May 9th, after 10 in the evening, as he covers another tornado northwest of Oklahoma City, England experiences something rare. The tornado is approaching the KWTV studios, approaching him. He later admits he was scared for the first time in 30 years. He orders everyone out of the studio to the station's safe room. He describes the safe room as a sardine can with too many sardines. They huddle there as the tornado passes nearby. When they emerge, the building is intact. But England, a man who has tracked hundreds of tornadoes and who has saved countless lives with his forecasts, understands, in that moment, what everyone else has always known. Tornadoes are terrifying, no matter how much you know, no matter how prepared you are. Sometimes you just get scared. In the weeks and months after the outbreak, the affected communities begin the slow work of rebuilding. President Bush issues disaster declarations. FEMA distributes $67.8 million by July. The Salvation Army serves 9,526 meals. Volunteers pour in from across the country. But the real work, the work of deciding whether to stay or leave, whether to rebuild or abandon a town that has been partially erased, that work takes years. Pierce City Mayor Mark Peters walks his destroyed downtown and makes a choice. They're rebuilding. But they're not trying to recreate what was lost. Architect Jim Moore will say that because of the tornado, it really improved a lot of aspects of the town. It is a controversial statement. How can a disaster that killed someone, that destroyed 90% of downtown, be an improvement? But the numbers tell a story. Per capita income rises from $12,310 in 2000 to $19,511 in 2023. Median home values more than double. The Victorian storefronts are mostly gone. Only 5 original buildings remain on Main Street. But new structures rise. A supermarket twice the size of the old one, a new library, a new drugstore, a senior citizen center. The population drops, though, from 1,385 to 1,251 by 2020. Nearly 10% fewer people. Some people look at the empty lots where century-old buildings used to stand and decide they do not want to stay. The Pierce City they remember is gone. Each May 4th, St. Mary's Catholic Church holds a special anniversary mass. For the 20th anniversary in 2023, the community gathers at South Park with free food and entertainment. At 7:04 p.m., the exact moment the tornado struck, everyone falls silent. They remember J. Dale Taunton holding the door. They remember the Victorian buildings. They remember when downtown looked different. But they're still here. In Stockton, the recovery follows a similar path. Grammy-winning singer Sheryl Crow donates her 1959 Mercedes convertible for auction. It sells for $235,000. The buyer matches the donation, bringing $470,000 for the Stockton Rebuilding Fund. FEMA designates Stockton as a long-term community recovery site. Brian Fogel, working with Great Southern Bank, drives to Stockton about a week after the tornado. He sits with businessman Brian Hammonds and his father Dwayne in their storm-damaged office. They write recovery plans on napkins from a Springfield donut shop. Napkins. The population drops from 1,960 to 1,683. By 2020, 14% fewer people. The 100-year-old buildings downtown are never rebuilt. But Wanda Cassell, who lost her husband in the tornado, finds something to hold on to. She says the fact that our community held together, and we rebuilt, and we have done a much better job rebuilding, and I can see lots of positive things about it. She's still there, living in Stockton, remembering the day her husband was blown away, the day her grandson found him in the field, but also remembering how the community came together, how strangers became family, how you can lose everything and still find reasons to stay. In Moore, Oklahoma, The lessons of May 8th, 2003 become the foundation for a revolution in tornado safety. The zero fatality outcome validates Oklahoma's Safe Room program. The data is irrefutable. Two similar tornadoes, 4 years apart, struck similar neighborhoods. 44 deaths in 1999, 0 in 2003. But more would be tested again on May 20th, 2013, when another massive tornado, an EF5, struck with winds of 210 miles per hour. 24 people were killed. Among the dead were 7 third graders at Plaza Towers Elementary School. The children drowned when the school flooded after the tornado passed. The school had no storm shelter. The tragedy finally drives systemic change. On March 17, 2014, the Moore City Council voted unanimously to adopt new residential building codes. Moore became the first United States city to adopt tornado-specific building requirements exceeding national standards. The new codes mandate hurricane clips and framing anchors, continuous plywood bracing, wind-resistant garage doors. Homes are now designed to withstand winds up to 135 miles per hour. Moore Public Schools passed a $209 million bond issue in 2015 to build safe room gyms at all schools. Today, all 35 Moore Public Schools buildings have FEMA-rated storm shelters. The Plaza Towers 7 Memorial was completed in November 2014. A large tree, 7 granite benches, each engraved with a child's name: Kyle Davis, Jane A. Hornsby, Antonia Candelaria, Emily Konatzer, Sydney Engel, Nicholas McCabe, Christopher Legg. Each bench design reflects that child's personality and interests. The gray and mahogany granite slabs include silhouettes of the students. It is a reminder, a memorial, and a promise that Moore will never let this happen again. Moore's population grew 52.7% between 2000 and 2020, from 41,000 to 62,000 people. The tornado risk has not deterred residents. If anything, Moore has become a model for how communities can adapt to living in Tornado Alley. Franklin, Kansas faces harder odds. The 2020 census recorded just 473 people. The poverty rate is 43%. 71% of children live below the poverty line. The Miners Hall Museum opened in 2012, honoring Franklin's coal mining heritage. The Franklin Sidewalk, a 1.7-mile concrete path connecting the town to nearby Arma, was listed on the National Register of Historic Places in 2007. But the population continued to decline. The tornado did not just damage buildings. It damaged the town's economic future. Some towns recover, some do not. Sometimes the question is not just whether you can rebuild, it is whether there is still a reason to stay. 21 years have passed since that Sunday in May when the sky turned black across Kansas, Missouri, Oklahoma, and Tennessee. The May 2003 tornado outbreak sequence produced 363 tornadoes, the most in any week-long span in recorded history, until it was surpassed 8 years later. 41 to 50 people died. Over 700 people were injured. $4.1 billion in damage. But the numbers do not tell the whole story. They never do. The story is J. Dale Taunton holding the door. Wanda Cassell's grandson finding her husband in the field. Charlie McCorry, 85 years old, holding a bathroom door shut against 200-mile-per-hour winds. Leslie Fitzgerald and 5-year-old Kennedy, clutching a stuffed rabbit in a screaming church. The story is Don Staley emerging from his safe room, house destroyed, but alive to tell about it. The 30 people at Wilson's Creek Baptist Church walking out of a demolished sanctuary without a scratch. Monikia Murphy and her 4 children hiding under a couch, surviving glass and debris. The story is Moore, Oklahoma, proving that preparation works, that safe rooms save lives, that you can live in Tornado Alley and survive if you plan for the worst. The story is the towns that rebuilt. Pierce City, with its 5 remaining Victorian storefronts. Stockton, with its donut shop napkin recovery plans. Carl Junction, where Kennedy Fitzgerald still has that stuffed rabbit. And the towns that did not fully recover. Franklin, Kansas, with its 43% poverty rate and fading population. Jackson, Tennessee, where 11 people died in the dark. The May 2003 outbreak taught America that tornado forecasting works. Every single fatality occurred within both a tornado watch and a tornado warning. The warnings reached people. The question was whether they were prepared to act on them. It taught us that safe rooms save lives. The difference between more in 1999 and more in 2003 was preparation. Same city, similar tornado, 0 deaths. It taught us that some losses cannot be measured in dollars. The elderly woman asking Mayor Peters where the drugstore is. The geography of memory. The town you remember that does not exist anymore. The outbreak ended on Mother's Day, May 11th, 2003, as a ridge of high pressure finally built over the Rocky Mountains. The conveyor belt of Gulf moisture shut down. The atmosphere stabilized. The 9 days were over. But for the survivors, the reckoning was just beginning. Wanda Cassell still lives in Stockton. Dawn Staley's safe room still stands in Moore. Kennedy Fitzgerald is now a young woman, but somewhere she still has that stuffed rabbit from the church bathroom. Every spring, when the sky turns green and the sirens sound, they remember. They know what can happen in minutes on a Sunday afternoon. They know the sound of metal screaming as it is torn apart. They know what it is like to emerge from shelter into a world that looks nothing like the one they left. But they also know something else. They know that communities can rebuild, that families can survive, that an 85-year-old man can hold a door against an F4 tornado and live to tell about it. 21 years later, the physical scars have largely healed. New buildings stand where old ones fell. The rubble is gone. Life continues. But in basements and safe rooms across Kansas, Missouri, Oklahoma, and Tennessee, families shelter each spring knowing that preparation is the difference between tragedy and survival. The May 2003 tornado outbreak sequence threw everything the atmosphere could conjure at the heartland. 363 tornadoes, 9 days, 6 F4 tornadoes. And the heartland is still here. Smaller in some places, changed forever, but still here. Still rebuilding, still remembering, still holding the door open for whoever needs shelter from the storm.